Welcome back, everyone, to Double Take, an NFL podcast streaming everywhere you get podcasts and also on YouTube. My name is David, and I'm joined by my co-host, as always, Daniel. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Week off, but about to go on vacation, and so I'm glad I get to do this before I leave on Friday.
Yeah. Last week we could not record because of personal reasons. Just wasn't able to get time off or anything like that to record. I just want to let you know it is personal. It is something that actually happened in my life, and it's not me running away from the Cowboys losing to
Yeah,
San Francisco this past week. So I just didn't feel like recording. No, it's something actually happened and went on, and so I had
yeah.
to take care of that. But we are back to review Week 6 of the NFL. Obviously, we're talking about the Cowboys first, but really, this is not a show about the Cowboys. Even though this outline, this overlay that we have going on, will be on the entire show. We're talking about the Cowboys, but really, we're talking about everything else because there's a lot of different things that went on this past week.
A lot.
Um, and so we definitely need to talk about it. But let's talk about the Cowboys first off. So they advanced to 4-2 in the season after getting a tough, ugly win over the Los Angeles Chargers. They
Ugly
committed
is right.
14 penalties, but it was 14 penalties, and then Mike McCarthy calling probably one of the worst games as the Dallas Cowboys offense coordinator, even if you want to say this is probably still better than what he called against the 49ers.
Right.
But in spite of that,
Yeah.
Dak Prescott, 21 for 30, 272, one touchdown, no interceptions, had 7 carries, 40 yards on the ground, and a score. CeeDee Lamb had 7 catches for 117 on 7 targets. And Brandon Cooks had his share of catches with 4 targets for 4 catches, 36 yards, and a touchdown. Defense showed up and played fairly well. I think Javon Curse, I'm going to say it,
Go ahead.
he's turning into a liability on defense.
That's the
With
word that I was gonna go for. Liability.
he plays hard,
Sure.
but
Sure.
over the past 3 weeks, he's really struggled on penalties and doing his job. Um,
I think it would be one thing if they're like holding calls, pass interference calls, but I feel like a
which he
lot
does
of
have.
but I feel
Does have
like
those.
what I think the ones that are killing us are the helmet to helmet, unnecessary roughness, late hits, stuff like that. It's what bugs me
Yeah,
because they're avoidable.
they are avoidable. But he's had a couple of those. He made a couple of good tackles, some great tackles last night as well. But this defense, I think they played pretty well. They only let Eckler get 60 yards of total offense, I believe. So that was pretty good. And
Yeah.
everyone said that he was going to come and run roughshod on us, which kind of again leaves you question marks about the consistency of this defense.
Yeah.
Micah, though, stepped up when it mattered.
Yeah.
He was disrupting the quarterback a lot, but not as much as what we've seen in the past. But when we needed him to make a stop on that last drive, literally, boom, sack, like big play, which led to the pass rush led to a Stephon Gilmore interception to seal the deal. A lot of stuff has happened. I think what happened in this game and what happened in last week's game, and even if you look at the season as a whole, has us asking, this is really the state of the Dallas Cowboys address. This is us heading into the bye week. We've played 6 games. We're 4-2. The teams that we have beaten have been the New York Giants, the New York Jets, the New England Patriots, and now the Los Angeles Chargers. Our losses come to Arizona, 18-26, and San Francisco, 10-42. Daniel, after seeing 6 weeks of this Dallas Cowboys team, man, how do you feel? Like, what are the expectations for this Cowboys team at this point in time after what you've seen?
I think for me, I don't think anything's changed for me. I believe that this team was a one and done team, and I still feel that way. this offense, I'm going to say it, you can disagree.
Mm-hmm.
This offense is worse off without Kellen Moore, only for the simple fact that we cannot score with this offense. As a team, collectively, we've been able to get above 35 points a couple times. But this offense looks stagnant. And maybe I'm being the prisoner of the San Francisco and the Charger game. Because I do believe that getting to the red zone is what Dallas has been good at all year.
Mm-hmm.
Which was the problem last year with Kellen Moore. Once we got in the red zone, we were golden. But it was 3-and-out, 3-and-out, 3-and-out for the majority of the game. This year, we have a better time getting to the red zone, and we just can't score when we get there. And so for me, I don't know which one I want, honestly.
Right.
And then the defense, and this is part of Micah's got to own this, along with everyone else on the defense. Everyone was telling us they were going to be historic.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not. And for me, it's hard to kind of put them in a category of like, is this a good defense? Is this a fraudulent defense like Philly was last year? Like, where are they?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not San Francisco, and they're
Right.
definitely not Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
But are they after that? And so for me, the expectations are still the same. I don't think they're going to do anything. Will they get into the playoffs? Sure, they'll get into the playoffs. But I think it's just going to be another year of unmet expectations. Well, not for me, but for other people, because my expectations always been tamed. And so that's where I'm sitting right now. My opinion really hasn't changed. We're going to get into later about the difference, I believe, between the 49ers, Eagles, and Dallas narrative in terms
Mm-hmm.
of criticism received by all three. But we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. I think I think my opinion has changed because obviously I had the Cowboys going to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl this year, but I'm obviously not as confident in that as I was at the start of the season. But it really has to do not even with like the whole question mark of this football team heading into this season was Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
And the rest of the team was going to show up to play. They were going to be ready to go. You just needed Dak Prescott to essentially, for the majority of this season, do what he has been doing this season, which is protect the football. We didn't get to talk about the San Francisco game, so I'm going to go ahead and give my thoughts and my opinions on that San Francisco game. If you came away from that game believing that it was all Dak Prescott's fault that we lost to San Francisco, you did not watch the game. The play calling was terrible. The defense was terrible. Pollard was terrible. Everybody was terrible in that game, including Dak Prescott. I'm not shying away from him. I mean, Dak Prescott was awful, especially with 2 out of the 3 interceptions that he threw. It was awful. But the entire team did not show up to play. So Dak Prescott this season, other than the 49er football game, has played really good ball. He has played really good football. You can call it game managing. You can call it whatever you want. What you can call this past Monday, you can't call that game managing. He carried this offense. Because to me, Mike McCarthy is the reason why we're going to be a one and done football team. If things continue to go the way that they're going, we will not be even in the divisional round if the way that things are going. Because everyone saw it. Everyone saw it on when the offense was coming off the field. They pan to Mike McCarthy, and Mike McCarthy's telling Dak, bad call. I don't know. I don't know what else to show you to prove that Mike McCarthy is the issue on this offense. He's not putting players in the best position to succeed. I know that you don't watch the show probably, or you stop watching it. I don't know. But Undisputed, Richard Sherman, when talking about that CeeDee Lamb is not a number one. And he said, hey, like, why aren't they throwing him the ball on the goal line? I kind of agree with Skip. I think Mike McCarthy's just not a smart coach. Like, why wouldn't you put the ball in his hands? He's proven to you, and Richard Sherman was saying, like, give us evidence that CD can be like that. I've never seen him do that before. Thursday night against Minnesota, or I think it might have been a Sunday night against Minnesota,
like a couple years ago, right?
A couple years ago, with Cooper Rush Andy Dalton at quarterback.
Yeah,
this was 2020. It was actually his rookie year.
Actually, it was it might have been a noon game because I was in Oklahoma at the time with you when that game was happening.
It was the one to
where he made that circus catch. Yeah, that was when I was in Oklahoma with you. So I think that was like either a noon game or mid-afternoon game.
Yeah, and so I mean, he spun, turned it, caught it in the end zone touchdown. Also against New York last year, made that one-handed catch along the sideline in the end zone. Like, so there's been proof that he can do that, but they're not calling plays for him down there. And so you're looking at how this offense is ran, because even on Monday, you can't run the football. You're unable to run the football.
Yep.
Whether that's Tony Pollard's fault, whether that's the offensive line's fault, whether it's because of the lack of creativity in the ground game, in your play calling.
Yeah.
You run it in the A gap 2 straight times, first and second down, and you get stuffed. You're putting Dak in third and long situations.
I texted you right after that.
Yes.
I texted you. I said 2 runs up the middle, back to back, same result. And I think that's been the issue with our run game.
Mm-hmm.
It's too predictable.
Mm-hmm.
They know you're going to run it in the A gap 2 straight times, and so they're ready for it. There's no creativity in the run game. Like Kyle Shanahan, the reason why they're able to, if Christian McCaffrey is not playing, and I know against Cleveland it didn't happen, but in the norm, you plug in a running back, not saying that they're going to be as great as Christian McCaffrey, but they're going to be successful because of the creativity and how they run the ball in San Francisco.
Or even playing to Tony Pollard's strength. Like, I know you're trying to prove that he is a
bell cow back, but
a vertical runner, but really he's a horizontal runner. Like, pitch him the ball, let him go out the outside and make some plays. Well, and we've seen him be successful in that this season.
Well, I think even last year he was a good in between the tackles runner, but it's not when they were like all loaded in the box. They spread it out, allowed him some breathing room where he can, make some moves, but everything is so tight. It feels so tight.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, I mean, the way that this offense is being called, you're putting your offense in bad positions to succeed. Like, and Dak overcame that against the Chargers. The problem is, I don't see him being able to do that consistently throughout the year. I don't think you can. I mean, maybe an elite quarterback, maybe Patrick Mahomes you can, or Joe Burrow can. But, we've already established that Dak isn't in that tier.
Yeah.
But we're seeing it even with Jared Goff in Detroit. You call plays that are best for him, he's going to thrive. He's going to succeed. He's going to be currently a top 5 quarterback if you understand your weapons and you understand your quarterback. And Mike McCarthy, either he doesn't understand or he's just like, no, like, I know what's best for them, and he's completely wrong. And as long as he continues to call plays the way he's calling plays, like, this Cowboys team can't thrive. They can't succeed. And even like with another thing, like, you get beat down 42-10 against the 49ers. Next time you play them, because we're gonna have to play them in the playoffs.
Yeah, either in the wild card or the divisional round.
I think this team, they're just the 49ers are in their head.
They own
I
us
mean,
right now.
they own us. I mean, and we were even saying it before the game even happened. Like you said, I don't know if this team can overcome it, and they couldn't. And not only they couldn't, they folded.
Yeah.
And so this game, this game overall does nothing. The Chargers game does nothing to change what I felt coming out of the San Francisco game.
Yeah.
Like it just did it. Now, what it did do is it made me feel better about Dak Prescott and how I feel about him. But I'm going to really explain that more once we're talking about Detroit and Jared Goff, because I think that kind of fits along with that and what we're talking about. But really not super encouraged about the Dallas Cowboys, even heading into the bye. Now, do I think we're going to win the next couple of games to put us in better positions? Absolutely. I absolutely believe that.
I don't
And
know,
so,
man.
and we'll, and again, once we get there, we'll talk about
Yeah.
it. But
Yep.
I guess I'm more confident in Dak's ability more than McCarthy's ability.
Yeah.
But that won't always lead to wins, unfortunately. But let's go ahead and let's move on to our mid segment, which is the biggest news from week 3, and also our we're trying to be quick on these takes. But both the Eagles and the 49ers lose to underwhelming teams, with the 49ers losing to Cleveland in a nail biter. I will say that it was a
Yep.
nail biter. It
Yep.
was, I think, what was it? 17-19 was the final score.
Yeah, let me pull up San Francisco's schedule. Yeah, 17-19.
So 17-19, they lose on a late field goal miss by I think their rookie kicker.
Yeah.
And then you have Philadelphia losing to the Jets 14-20. Jalen Hurts with 3 interceptions, and we'll get into that here in a second. But Daniel, talk to me about this. Like, what are your takeaways from these games?
I think what it does is it presents the beautiful picture that is the NFL, that it is team sports. You can get got on any given Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the 49ers, I think, I don't know if you had already talked about it or this was like our pre-show thing of like not having Debo, losing Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey doesn't help your team.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. But I think the thing for us to remember is the reason why I said they're underwhelming teams is because the offensive Cleveland has struggled all year.
Mm-hmm.
They've underperformed.
Mm-hmm.
Based on the money that they paid Deshaun Watson, he's been underperforming.
Mm-hmm.
And he even didn't play. And then Nick Chubb also not being there.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Chubb was basically their whole offense because I believe he's the best running back in the league.
Mm.
But what people need to understand is the Cleveland Browns defense, I know it's been difficult to calculate just because of who they've played, but you can look at the Cowboys schedule, Philadelphia schedule, and San Francisco
and even the
schedule.
Niners schedule. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. All 3 teams, they played a pretty weak schedule for the most part. But Cleveland's defense is looking historic.
Mm-hmm.
So you take a potential historic team versus, what we thought was the best offense, and I still think it's one of the best offenses in the league.
Mm-hmm.
They struggled. And so I think the defense did enough, in terms of the Browns defense, did enough to rattle Brock Purdy. This is actually the first time we've seen him not play well.
Mm-hmm.
But he did lead a game-winning drive.
Yeah.
That was not cashed in on by his kicker. So I could say that San Francisco should have won.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in terms of Philly, I think you and me, we've been talking about this all year. I know my buddy Steven, who's a Eagles fan. I'm gonna pull up some text that we have in our group chat.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think based on how he played last year, Jalen Hurts is not playing well this year.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You look at the numbers: 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of the guys were trolling him, saying, "Hey, hey, look, Jalen has 7. He has the most in the NFC East, and the one who has the least interceptions in the NFC East is Dak Prescott."
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think what the difference is we've blown out really bad teams,
Mm-hmm.
and defense is getting points, and so we haven't asked Dak. And I think for me, that's what I focused on in the first couple weeks of the season, and why I thought, hey, this is doable.
Mm-hmm.
Defense is playing well. We're running the football pretty okay, and Dak isn't asked to do too much. He's just asked to move the ball into the red zone. The goal is obviously to score touchdowns, but we were getting points anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then the defense would get scoop and scores, interceptions, pick sixes, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Philly has that. And they've been beating on bad teams too. Like, I've been looking at their schedule. This is their schedule for the first 6 weeks of the season. New England. That one was a close one for them.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota. That was also a close one for them, but they pulled away in the end. Tampa Bay. I like Tampa Bay. I think Tampa
Mm-hmm.
Bay they're playing way better than I thought they would this year. The Commanders, a divisional game, always tough, but they almost lost that one. And then the Rams was the game that I thought they played pretty okay. Like, that was a good game for them. And then losing to the Jets. The what's concerning for me about Philly in terms of like for them is these games are really close.
Mm-hmm.
They're not as dominant as they were last year. Jalen Hurts hasn't looked the same. Now, it could be for a multitude of reasons. I'm not going to come out here and say Jalen Hurts is dropping off or people have figured him out. I do think their play calling is also suspect. It hasn't been very good.
Right.
And it looks like I haven't heard of like Devontae Smith all year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he played pretty well the first couple of weeks,
Yeah.
and then he's dropped off. I don't know what the deal is with that.
Well, and dropping passes also.
And so for me, I think the 49ers just got caught on a bad week with a great defense. It's probably one of the first times they played a really good defense.
Mm-hmm.
And they struggled, but they still had an opportunity to win the game. So I don't think my opinion of San Francisco has changed.
Right. Correct.
And I think for Philadelphia, I think they're gettable. They are. I just don't have trust in our team is my issue. But it is possible to get them.
Yeah, so I'm not really going to say anything about the 49ers. I think you're absolutely right about Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy showed us something in this loss, which there's no such thing as moral victories in football. I mean, there could be, but, that's not what I'm going to call this. What I'm going to call this is just, it's a revelation game. It showed you something about Brock Purdy, that time's winding down. You need to score to win the game. You're playing against the best defense in football. Now, granted, they're playing prevent defense. They're not up into the line. They're just soft coverages to get you down the field and all of that kind of stuff, which is absolutely true. But you still have to get down the field.
Yeah,
and you still have to.
And they'll play like that in the
position.
playoffs too. They'll play that kind of defense in the playoffs too.
And so, he went down. He got them in it. It was a missed field goal. It was a rainy, cold day in Cleveland. And you're playing against one of the best defenses, probably either number 1 or 2 in the league at the time. And you lose C-Mac, you lose Debo, you lose Trent Williams in the game. So not a lot to say about the 49ers. I think the 49ers, they probably needed this loss. We always talk about sometimes you need to lose to check yourselves, and I think that's what this game was.
Yeah.
Now, depending on how C-Mac, I don't know. I haven't read any of the reports as of yet about where he's at right now. But if they lose him for long term, then that's cause for concern. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But, it's not really about the 49ers. I think the 49ers are still the best team in the NFC, even with this loss. Like, they just are. When it comes to Philly, though, I think you're being a little bit too nice on Philly.
You think so?
You're, and I get it. There's concerns about our football team as well, but our team gets up when we play the Philadelphia Eagles. So here's what I'm going to say. The Eagles are not better than the Cowboys. The Cowboys will win the NFC East because we're a better football team than the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not scared of Philly at all. And you can tell, Steve and I said this. I look forward to playing the Eagles. I'm chomping at the bit to play the Eagles.
Hey,
they're not a better football team than us.
He's gonna come on the show when we play the Eagles. It's gonna be a great episode.
I'm excited. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it because there's no way that you can watch Philly's games this year and believe that they're better than us. I think you can even look at both of the quarterbacks this year. You can't tell me right now the way that they're playing that Jalen Hurts is better than Dak Prescott and the systems that they're running right now. Now, talent-wise, potential-wise, Jalen's better than Dak Prescott. I'm man enough to admit that. His ability to run and to extend the play. Now, we saw Dak going back to that against the Chargers.
Yeah.
But, Jalen's he's obviously talented. But Dak has better command of his offense right now than Jalen Hurts. If you look at the interceptions that Jalen Hurts threw against the Jets, especially that last one, it's like, what are you doing? Here's the thing. I will give Jalen Hurts a break on his first pick because that was a tipped ball that was intercepted. I'll give him that one. But the next two? Terrible decisions. Those are decisions that people say only Dak Prescott would make. So he's not getting off for those two. He made bad throws on those two.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's because I also, the offense coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I think it's maybe because they paid Jalen Hurts all that money and they want him to throw the ball more and not be a running offense necessarily. But that's what they do best. They have one of the best offensive lines with Layden Johnson in the game. But that's one of the things that they do best is run the football. So why not run the football, open up to the play action? I mean, all quarterbacks are successful that way. So why aren't you doing that with Jalen Hurts?
Yeah.
And I think that defensively, they played pretty well against the Jets, albeit Zach Wilson. But they've really struggled against good quarterbacks. And they struggle against Dak Prescott.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm confident that we're going to be able to beat them.
Yeah.
They also play Miami this week.
Oof.
So they're about to go 5-2. That puts us a half game back in the NFC East. We take our business against the Rams. We push ourselves to 5-2.
Yep.
And then we go to Philly. Last year, with Cooper Rush, the Cowboys almost beat the Philadelphia Eagles. That is a game that if Dak Prescott's the quarterback, we win that game. No doubt in my mind. Then Dak, albeit against Gardner Minshew, but really was against that defense. Dak puts 40 on this team.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's a different system. It's a different offense. Both offenses are struggling, though.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the thing is which one is going to be better.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the question.
And I'm telling you right now, if Mike McCarthy would wake up and say, hey, I need to give the ball to CeeDee Lamb. I need to give the ball to Brandon Cooks. I need to throw less passes to Michael Gallup on slant routes.
Mm-hmm.
Give the ball to Jake Ferguson more. We will win. And you can bet that. But when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles, They're not better than the Dallas Cowboys overall. And if you believe that, you're kidding yourself. You're living in the past. You're living in last year because this is not the same Eagles team at
Okay,
all.
I hear you. I'm gonna go Richard Sherman here. I hear you,
Mm-hmm.
but you're telling people not to live in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But when you talk about Dallas versus Philly,
Mm-hmm.
you bring up the past. You're saying, "Hey, don't go off of last year," but that's
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing.
So,
You're going off of what Cooper Rush did last year, and also
mm-hmm.
what Dak Prescott did last year.
So what I mean by that
Uh-huh.
is that they're saying is that this Philadelphia team is last year's Philadelphia team. That's what I mean about comparison. Now,
Okay.
when I go into the past, I'm talking about this is what Dak has historically done against the Philadelphia Eagles, just to show that the Cowboys always get up for Philly. So I'm reassuring you of the type of team that will play against Philadelphia. It's not going to be, now I could be wrong, because it happens as Stephen A. Smith will say, a dead clock is right twice a day.
Yeah.
But this team always gets up for Philadelphia. You're not going to get a sleepy team, is what I'm saying when we're talking about in the past. Now, right now, if you're looking at both teams as they're playing right now, the Dallas Cowboys are better than Philadelphia.
Yeah, and I think the comparison that I'm making is, and I had to do my research this morning. You look at the quality of the Cowboys schedule.
Mm-hmm.
40-0 against the Jets or Giants, 30-10 against the Jets, 38-3 against New England, and then 20-17. I'm talking about the wins.
Yeah.
The thing that's concerning to me about Dallas, and it's fair for me to think this. You played a 1-5 team in Arizona, and they
Mm-hmm.
beat the brakes off of you.
Mm-hmm.
You play a team that potentially you're going to meet in the postseason, they
Mm-hmm.
beat the brakes off of you. I look at Philly's schedule. Yes, they've kept it close with some bad teams. But the thing about, New York, I think New York, they're starting to get their legs up under them. So I don't think they're a bad team. I think they have a really good defense
Mm-hmm.
and a quarterback who's continually getting better the more that he plays.
Mm-hmm.
And so I understand why people would knock Philly for losing to the Jets, but in that same breath, I'm like, they're a
Mm-hmm.
3-3 football team. Arizona was a 1-5 football team, and they killed us.
Well, okay.
And same thing with San Francisco. They dominated the teams that they were supposed to dominate.
Mm-hmm.
And when they played a good defense, they struggled, yes, but they had an opportunity to win the game.
Yeah. So again, the argument isn't about the 49ers. I think the 49ers clearly best team in the NFC.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, I'm going to go back to the Arizona game.
Yeah.
And here's what I'll say. And this is a little bit like eating crow for myself, I think, to some extent. In the red zone, if we had Kellen Moore in that football game, we win. Because did they beat the brakes off of our defense? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did they beat the brakes off of our offense? No. Mike McCarthy lost us that football game.
Right. But the thing is, he's going to be our offensive coordinator, or he's going to be our play caller for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and
That's
I
the
understand
issue.
that. I get that, but I'm just saying about Arizona, like the offense wasn't. We beat ourselves, and I'm hoping with this bye week, Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott, Schottenheimer will all get into a room, and Dak needs to say, "Hey, listen, like this is where you're struggling with." Like, I've carried this team on my back, especially against the Chargers. This is what works for us. And they're able to figure it out in this bye week. And if we tweak some things on our offense, if we get the ball to CD Lamb more, if we go to Brandon Cooks more, if we allow for Tony Pollard to hit the outside and to run the football, we give Rico some more carries because Rico played good in moments and stretches. I think this team can beat Philadelphia. I really do. Will we beat the 49ers? I don't know. That remains to be seen. But let's go ahead and let's keep moving on. Let's talk about Detroit. Detroit is 5-1. They've played really, really good football. They beat the Kansas City Chiefs in a big game. Daniel, is Jared Goff, in your opinion, the best quarterback in the NFC?
Here's the thing that people have to understand. I can say that right now he's playing like it, but know that if I were to, again, my top 10 quarterbacks in the league, would he be near the bottom? Yeah, he would. Because I think talent also has a lot to do with it. But right now, as we sit here today, he's playing the best out of all the quarterbacks in the NFC. And I think, and David, you said that you needed to see him do it more than a year. String together more consistent years. And I think we're coming up on, I know his first year in Detroit, it's whatever. It's a
Wasn't great.
bad situation, not really good.
It was average. He had an average year.
Yeah. Last year where is kind of where he's like, oh man, could he actually be a top 10 quarterback? And then even this year, what they're doing is amazing. I think it's a season that we thought they could have. We didn't know if they were there yet. I think we were all hoping that they would have a season like this. I thought at this point of the year they may be like 3-3, 4-2, but they're 5-1. And so just looking at their team, they have the third best offense. They have a top 10 defense. I think that's what's important here.
Yeah.
That can give you some inkling on why Jared Goff is probably playing as well as he's playing. Because he has a good defense behind him. Not that they're Cleveland or San Francisco or even Dallas, but it helps.
Yeah.
It really helps. And I think and you kind of alluded to this before, when you're a quarterback and you have an offense that is tailored to you, where you have weapons that for you're comfortable with and you can trust it because it fits your kind of play style. That's what Jared Goff has probably needed since like the Sean McVay days. But it didn't work out that way, and with the Rams. But here with Dan Campbell and company, he's playing his butt off and they're winning. And so for me, sitting here today, you look at the top teams in the NFC. Jalen Hurts struggling a little bit. Brock Purdy, as much as I love Brock Purdy, is he? Can I put him there with Jared Goff right now? How they're playing this year, they're close, but I would still give the edge to Jared Goff. Not that he's the best quarterback in the NFC, but he's playing like the best quarterback in the NFC. That's probably a better way to phrase it.
Yeah, I mean, I think their numbers are very similar.
They are, yes.
Brock Purdy, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. Jared Goff, 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I still will give the edge to Brock Purdy.
Okay.
Just because, did he have an average game against Cleveland? Yes, but he also almost
won the
that
game. Yeah.
Jared Goff had a terrible game this year that lost them a game. And to me, I'm nitpicking, but it's because we're talking about, who's the best quarterback?
You have to nitpick
right now.
Yeah.
Like when it's this close, you have to take it by, game for game.
Right.
And so
maybe I'm being prisoner of, last year.
Well, maybe. What I will say is I think you're absolutely right that he is playing like a top quarterback in the NFC.
Yeah.
And I think it is due to the team around him. And
Mhm.
even when you look at Jared Goff's career, I think I realized something about him that I'm also going to realize about Dak. And I'll put this out there for you to kind of,
Mhm.
when you really know your quarterback and you really know what he can do and what he thrives in, and you put them in that situation,
Mhm.
they're going to look like Jared Goff, which is a top 10 NFL quarterback who is going to win you football games and put you in situations that you're happy with. If Dak Prescott left the Dallas Cowboys and went somewhere else, Dak Prescott could win you a Super Bowl. Because I think Jared Goff is about to go and do just that. Maybe not this year, maybe next year. He's going to make a run for it this year because he has the coach in Dan Campbell who knows him, who puts him in the best situations to succeed. And you could say that really about a lot of different quarterbacks. Not just Jared Goff, not just Dak Prescott. I mean, you're looking at Brock Purdy,
Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes. When you have a competent head coach who knows you and puts you in situations that you thrive in, the sky's the limit for you. And I think that's what we're seeing out of Jared Goff is that he finally has a coach who understands him and puts him in situations to succeed. And Detroit, man, their whole team is like that. They're just really well coached. They have the players around them that will succeed. And I'm beyond ecstatic for that organization because they've been long overdue for a winning football team. They're playing well, they're playing good. So I wouldn't say that Jared Goff is the best quarterback in the NFC quite yet. I think there's a lot of football left to play. But right now, I think you're right. He is playing like a top NFC quarterback for sure.
Yeah.
Now, Bill Belichick. Let's get
Yep.
into him.
Yep.
Man, has his team struggled.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're 1-5 now.
Yep.
Mac Jones not looking good.
Nope.
So, Daniel, who do you put the blame on for the Patriots' lack of success at
Bill
this point?
Belichick. 100%. 100% Bill Belichick. I think, and this will be a quick take.
Okay.
Bill Belichick, since Tom Brady has left, has been exposed. Like, I used to be a guy, and me and Dad were talking about it the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be of the mindset that it was maybe 60-40 Tom in terms of the dynasty.
Right.
Since that's happened, it's now 90-10.
Mm.
Because I think and Bill has pretty much ruined it for himself by trying
That's
to
true.
to prove to people that it was him, that he was the reason, and decided to not have an offensive coordinator last year and have a defensive guy, Matt Patricia, call plays,
And Joe Judge, who's a special teams guy.
and a failed head coach. Both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to prove that Brady was not the sole reason that they won championships. And then I know, like, Bill put together some great defenses. I've never questioned how much of a genius he is defensively.
Mm-hmm.
But as a head coach, he is awful as a head coach. The reason why they won so many Super Bowls, why they won so many games is because of that man, Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing it in the flesh. They've ruined Mac Jones.
Mm-hmm.
I wish Mac Jones can get out of there, get with an actual coach who knows what they're doing with the quarterback, and see if he can salvage his career, because it's unfair what's happened to that man.
Mm-hmm.
Unfair. And so for me, Bill Belichick is a fraud.
I wish I could disagree with you. I think what I will say is that maybe that first Super Bowl was 60-40 Bill Belichick because his defense played lights out. Granted, Tom Brady made the drive to lead them down the field and to score a touchdown, but Tom Brady wasn't the Tom Brady that we know in 2001. So I would give that first Super Bowl to him. After that, it's all Tom Brady. Not all Tom Brady, because they still had good defenses and they needed those defenses to win football games at times. But
Correct.
Tom Brady, I don't think that. I mean, we're seeing it. I mean, we're seeing it live. Like without Tom Brady, Bill Belichick is a sub 500 head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, ruined Mac Jones, who had a great rookie year.
He
Went
did.
10-7.
Yep.
Yes, lost in the playoffs to the Buffalo Bills. That's expected with the rookie quarterback, with no weapons.
Yep.
Second year, you put a defensive coordinator and a special teams coordinator as his offense coordinator. Like, what are you doing? And even this year, yes, you get Bill O'Brien, but there's no ingredients to cook the meal.
Yeah, like he has no one. No one can get separation. They're the worst team in separation.
So, like, you just look at this at Bill Belichick. Now, what I've heard being suggested by some analysts is that you remove Bill Belichick as the general manager.
Yeah.
You let someone else purchase the ingredients and you let Bill Belichick to cook the meal. The thing is, like, I just don't think you can trust him, even with like being the head coach, of putting in the guys that he needs to win football games at this point in his career. I think that Bill Belichick and his coaching style has not evolved with the times.
Has not.
And so you're seeing a football team that is outdated, that is not being developed, and that is not able to achieve at their full potential. Would I go as far as to say that he is a fraud?
The reason why I say fraud is based on where everyone has him.
Mm,
The
yeah.
greatest coach of all time. He's a fraud.
Yeah, I think I will agree with you. I think Bill Walsh is probably the greatest coach of all time.
Yep. I would say Jimmy Johnson is right.
Jimmy Johnson's
He's
right
right
there.
there.
Don Shula is there.
Tom Landry.
Andy Reid.
Andy Reid. Yes. How could we forget Andy Reid? Andy Reid.
Andy Reid might be a top 3 head coach in the NFL because he was able to get to Super Bowls and win divisions with Donovan McNabb,
who's a
Alex
great player.
Smith.
Great player.
Great
Not
player,
a Hall of
but
Famer,
no.
but a great player.
Alex Smith, who
Yep.
was ruined in San Francisco.
Yes, he was.
And then turned him into an average of 11 wins a season, making
Like
it to the
a
divisional
Pro
round.
Bowl quarterback. Yep.
And then Patrick Mahomes, you're winning Super Bowls.
You're going to the AFC Championship game every year.
Every
It's like
single
it's like
year.
written in stone. You're going to go back. Yeah.
And so Andy Reid's up there.
Yep. I would put him above Bill Belichick, in my opinion.
Yeah, a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people probably wouldn't, but I would. I for sure would. When you really think about their careers, all of the success that Andy Reid has had, I mean, or the fact that Bill Belichick doesn't have success without Tom Brady.
Yep.
except maybe 1 year in Cleveland,
And
and
then
then maybe 1 year like with Matt Castle.
yeah, that's what I was going to bring up, the Matt Castle
But
year.
then Andy Reid has Donovan McNabb, Alex Smith, and then finally, yes, he won a Super Bowl and have won Super Bowls with Patrick Mahomes. So, I mean, I put him above that. So now you're saying like now he's probably like top 5, but
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure that we can come up with some other coaches like Bill Cowher,
Oh, yeah, Bill Cowher.
maybe
For
Mike
sure.
Tomlin.
Yep. Yep. I mean,
So
yeah, like Pittsburgh, you think about Pittsburgh, yes, they had Ben Roethlisberger.
they're struggling a little bit right now,
Without him, that's the
but
thing. I think we got to
the
see
thing
what Mike
is,
Tomlin does
but
without
that's the
him.
thing. I think Mike Tomlin's biggest flaw is loyalty to his offense coordinator,
Yeah.
because I think if they brought someone else in, that offense would look better.
Yeah, they have pieces, they have
Mm-hmm.
Najee. Kenny Pickett has given you flashes that he could be a good quarterback. And then
Mm-hmm.
George Pickens, great
Yeah.
talent, insane talent. And Freiermuth, great tight end.
Mm-hmm.
They have pieces there. They
Mm-hmm.
just don't have the right offensive coordinator right now.
Yeah. And that does go to Mike Tomlin. I think that is a knock on him that
Yeah.
he needs
You
to make the decisions and say,
Yes.
hey, we need to get someone
Yes.
else in here. But even then, still, like without a good quarterback, he's still going at least 500. And even in the years
Yeah.
to where he doesn't even have like when he has terrible quarterbacks, when he has a Mason Rudolph as
Yep.
his starter,
Mhm.
able to will that team to 500.
Right.
New England's 1-5.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just so I think you're right. I think Bill Belichick is being exposed as a fraud without
Yeah.
Tom Brady.
Yeah, like when Steven gets on here, I would love to hear his opinion on Andy Reid because, that was his coach for a number
Mm-hmm.
of years. So he's seen more than we have on a more in-depth level where he ranks him. If he
Mm-hmm.
has him as one of the greatest coaches of all time. And so, but yeah.
Alrighty. Well, let's go ahead and let's get into let's just go ahead and go into Pick'em this week.
Yeah.
To kind of finish out the show. Here was in week 5 our records, because we didn't do week 6 since we didn't record.
Yeah.
But here's our week 5 records. I was 6-8 in week 5. My record for the year is 48-30. Daniel went 8-6 in week
right.
5.
That's right.
And he has now taken the lead
Yes,
by
I have.
one game, 49 of 29 this year. So he has a 1-game lead over me.
I always believed in myself.
And
Yeah.
always, yep. And again, it's only week 7. Okay, we got
Yeah.
a long string of games left to go. But here we go. Let's start with the first game: Jacksonville versus New Orleans.
Mhm.
I think Jacksonville, they're just playing better football right now than New Orleans is.
Mhm.
I think they're more consistent in their play. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Jacksonville in this game.
Yeah, me too. I think right now, still the strength of the Saints team is their defense.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think I would take Trevor Lawrence right now over Derek Carr and just trust him to play better.
Mm-hmm.
ETN is a beast. I think he's such a great. Them playing together in Clemson was awesome, and you're starting to see that they're bringing that stuff back to Jacksonville. So I'm gonna take Jacksonville in this game.
Yeah. Next game. Oh, this one's a tough one. It is Detroit going to Baltimore. I'm going to go with Baltimore here because they are at home. I believe in Lamar Jackson. I think their defense is playing really, really well. Offensively, though, they need to figure it out, and I think that this is the game that they do it. So I'm gonna go with them.
I'm gonna go with Detroit. They've been more consistent,
Mm-hmm.
and I just don't trust Lamar's receivers. I think Lamar has been playing really well. I think that what they've been trying to do with him is turn him more into a throwing quarterback than having him run.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing that. They're just not catching the ball.
Yeah.
And so I don't trust his receivers. I'm going
Mm.
to take Detroit in this game.
All right, next we have the Las Vegas Raiders versus Chicago. I'm going to go with the Las Vegas Raiders. Their defense has actually stepped up in the past couple of weeks. Now,
Yep.
granted, they played against New England last week
Right.
and played extremely well, but I just have more faith in their football team. Justin Fields, I don't know what his health is going to be after. I
Yeah.
think he injured his thumb.
Yeah, he's probably questionable. I'm gonna get more information about that. The thing that concerns me about the Raiders is just Jimmy Garoppolo turning the ball over.
Yeah, and
That's
actually they have listed Justin Fields as doubtful.
then I think for sure. I think for me, yeah, Vegas will win this game. Just yeah, I it just the offensive Las Vegas just doesn't really excite me.
Hmm.
Jimmy G is Jimmy G.
Well, and he's probably also not going to play either.
Okay. And then, Josh Jacobs, I have him in fantasy. He hasn't really done much for me. I mean, I remember when we would play Madden and we would
Hmm.
think ugly stats look like 107 carries, 312 yards.
Hmm.
Those are ugly stats.
Hmm.
So they haven't been the same offensively.
Yeah,
But with Justin Fields out, I think they'll win by default.
yeah. Next game, Cleveland versus
Man.
Indy in this football game.
Mm,
Man, Anthony Richardson looks like his season is over after
man.
injuring his shoulder, which is highly disappointing.
Yeah.
Coming off of a win against the 49ers, though, you have to
Mhm.
look at this Cleveland team and give them some respect. I don't know the health of Deshaun Watson. I don't think he plays. I still think that they win this game just because their defense is so good right now.
Yeah, I'm going to take Cleveland, and I think the defense is the most overwhelming thing. Jonathan Taylor is back. He's trying to get his legs back under him. I
Mhm.
think even if Deshaun plays, they're the 32 ranked passing offense in the league. They're the
Mhm.
eighth in rushing. I think combined with their defense, their running game is going to pull them through.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next one. We don't even have to talk about it because
Nope.
we just did Buffalo versus New England. We
Yep.
both take Buffalo.
Yep.
All right, next game, Washington versus the Giants in this
Hmm.
football game. Uh Man, this is tough because you don't know uh which Washington team you're going to get.
Yeah, and their defense is terrible, but the Giants' defense is also just as terrible.
Mhm.
Yeah,
The thing is, Daniel Jones is not playing in this game.
but they
It's going to
played.
be Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, but I feel like they played better with him in the game.
I also felt that as well. But I'm going to go Washington here.
Yeah,
I just trust them a little bit more than the Giants. Um
yeah, I'm with you. Yeah,
so yeah, I'm going to go with Washington.
great.
All right, next game, Atlanta versus Tampa Bay. I'm going to go Tampa here. They had a rough week against Detroit,
Yeah,
but
Baker Baker's questionable for this game.
hmm,
Um,
Baker. You know he's going to fight through it.
he is, and man, this one is tough.
It is hard with an injured Baker Mayfield. You know what? I'm going to go Atlanta.
You
I'm going to
think
go
you
Atlanta.
are?
No, I'm going to stick with Tampa Bay. My final answer. I'm going to lock in with Tampa Bay. I think that they're going to pull this one out.
I am too. I'm gonna take Tampa Bay. If Baker plays, I just trust him more than I trust Desmond Ritter.
Mhm.
Although, Bijan Robinson has pretty much changed life in Atlanta and has kind of really helped Desmond Ritter in a lot of
Mhm.
ways. But
Yeah.
I trust Baker a lot more. And their defense, is pretty good. Atlanta's defense is also playing just as well.
Hmm.
Actually, you know what? I talked myself into it. I'm going to take Atlanta in this game.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to take them.
All right. So Daniel takes Atlanta.
Yeah.
Next game, Pittsburgh versus the Rams. I'm going to go with the Rams here. Cooper Kupp is back.
Yep.
Really just man, this offense is just dangerous to some point. I don't think Matthew Stafford is playing his best football as
Yeah.
of yet.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're comparing offenses, Pittsburgh doesn't have one.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with the Rams.
Yeah, me too.
In this game.
Yeah.
Next game, Arizona versus Seattle. I think they bounce back. I think Seattle wins this game. Daniel, I think you do too.
Yeah. Yep.
Then we have Green Bay versus Denver.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm gonna take Green Bay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Green Bay. I just don't. I think that Denver is just a burning house.
Yeah,
waiting to collapse. Sean Payton. I think we have to also talk about Sean Payton's legacy as well, even this year.
Yeah.
Just because of how he came into the situation in Denver.
Yep.
And how he was just like, oh, this was a crap show before I came and showed up, and Nathaniel Hackett left it. It looks worse.
Yes, looks worse with him here.
And I think it's because of his arrogant attitude just coming in, and players not responding to that. And so I think he's really put them in a bad situation.
Yeah.
Next game. Or, sorry, go ahead.
No, I think that is a conversation we probably need to have next week, depending on the outcome of this game. But, yeah, no, I'll say it for next week.
Mm-hmm. Now we have the Chargers versus Kansas City. You know who I'm going to go with? I'm going to go with my homeboy. I'm going to go with Patty Mahomes.
Yeah,
I think the defense, they're playing really, really well right now, probably better than we've seen them in a long, long time. And this offense, they just need to continue playing together to figure things out. I think they will. They have Andy Reid, bar none.
Yeah, I'll take Kansas City as well.
Next game, Miami versus Philadelphia.
This is probably going to be the game of the week for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm going Miami. I think Miami, they're just playing really well. Tyreek is Tyreek.
Yeah.
They're just playing really good football right now. They had a bad loss against Buffalo. This is true. But I think they've grown from that. I think Philly's offense is struggling way too much.
Yeah.
Miami's is not. Also, I believe that the Philadelphia's defense is fraudulent. So they're going to take them apart. I think Miami wins.
Yeah, I'm going to take Miami as well. I'm with you. It's just if we're asking, Jalen Hurts to keep up with Tua, it's probably not going to happen.
Right.
Like you look at across the board, Miami has the number one offense in passing, in running. Their defense is not great. They're ranked 22nd. Eagles, second in the league in offense, 8th in passing, second in rushing, number 12 defense. But it's just the overwhelming speed that Miami has that I don't know if Philly's equipped to stop.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah. So, final game of the week. This is going to be a Monday night game. 49ers versus Minnesota. I think the 49ers bounce back. I really don't care who's on the field.
Yeah.
Again, I like Kirk Cousins, but I just don't think this team has what it takes to beat the 49ers. So I'm gonna give the 49ers the edge.
Yeah, they're in the Caleb Williams raffle right now. So
with that said, that's going to do it for us here on Double Take, an NFL podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. Wait for us to come back next week to talk about how things shake out, to see the stakes of the NFC, to see who's the best in the AFC. We're going to have all those questions and more discussions on coaches on the hot seat, quarterbacks on the hot seat, organizations on the hot seat. So join us for that conversation. Have a great weekend. God bless. See you guys later.